Hello and welcome to this special edition of Inside Sports. I'm your host, Todd Blackstock. We have a great show for you today as Major League Baseball Hall of Famer Ozzie Smith joins us in studio. Plus, our Inside Sports crew was recently on hand at Busch Stadium where the Cardinals teamed up with some national organizations in an effort to revive baseball in inner cities and raise awareness about performance-enhancing drugs. So stay with us for this and much more coming up next on Inside Sports. Our featured guest today was a 15-time All-Star. He captured 13 straight Gold Gloves and helped the Cardinals win the 1982 World Series. His number one is retired by the St. Louis Cardinals. And this time we'd like to welcome Ozzie Smith to Inside Sports. Ozzie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Todd, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Gosh, I remember the Ozzie Smith talks in the late, I guess in 1981. Gary Templeton had a little fallout with the St. Louis fans and did something unruly, and Ozzie, or Whitey, kind of tackled him, grabbed him into the dugout, and we knew Gary's days were probably done as a St. Louis Cardinal. Your name started coming up, people were excited, and at some point, I knew there was a no trade clause in your contract, but negotiations went on. At what point did you decide the Cardinals were going to be the right fit?
Well, I knew that when Whitey came out to San Diego at that particular time that this was probably going to be the best place for me because as athletes, we always want to be in a place where you're going to feel wanted. And certainly I had worn out my welcome there in San Diego from a negotiating standpoint. And when Whitey came, he was unaware of the fact that I did have a no trade clause in my contract, and that was the only thing that held it up. And we were able to work through that because he gave me the opportunity. He told me that if I came and played for the Cardinals and I didn't like it, I could become a free agent at the end of the year. And that was the way that we got around the no trade clause in the contract because everybody else had no trade clauses in their contract. I had watched those guys get compensated for having a no trade clause or they were able to get something out of the deal. And that's the way we were able to work around it. We worked around it. He told me that if I came and played and I didn't like it, I could become a free agent at the end of the year. But if I liked it, then we'd probably end up signing a long-term deal, which we did.
And you might be the centerpiece of a World Series champion as well, so you were one of those big pieces. What a special year 1982 was. Things all came together. You had characters like Joaquin Andujar and guys on that team. Rick Horton told me that you used to like to play around with Joaquin and give him a hard time. You have any good Joaquin stories for us?
He was definitely scared of snakes. Well, he shouldn't have let me know that. But Joaquin was one of those characters that this was probably one of the only places that he could play because he was one of those guys that always garnered a lot of attention and needed that pat on the back all the time. And we were a group of guys that said, hey, you know what, if you want to be a part of it, you can be a part of it. If you don't, we don't need you, So ignoring him, I think, was the way that we were able to get his attention and keep him focused on what his job was every day. And he did a wonderful job for us. He was a good pitcher and turned out to be a great teammate. We had a lot of fun. That particular group of guys was very, very special. Anytime you have a chance to go through a 162-game schedule and then end up winning the World Series, it's a special group.
One tough Dominican. Then in '85, the Cardinals go back. You win the NLCS. That's obviously the go crazy, folks. You were the MVP of that series. Things didn't work out, obviously, in Kansas City with the Don Dinkinger ruling. Then back again in '87, and then there was some more controversy in '87 as well. So you made it to 3 World Series, won, but the '85 and '87 were very interesting series.
They got away. I mean, '85 certainly got away. And I think the thing that more than anything, and I was just in Kansas City, last week actually, and the Don Dinkinger, the call and everything came up. But I think more than anything, the reason that we got so upset as a group was because he didn't ask for any help. If you ask for help and the other guys say, hey, we saw it, and whatever decision you come up with, but he didn't ask for any help. And I think that was one of the reasons that Whitey got tossed and Joaquin got tossed, the fact that we didn't have instant replay. If we had instant replay, we could have gone that route, which I think is one of the reasons that we don't see a lot more arguing in the game today is because of instant replay, which I always thought was an interesting part of the game, seeing a manager go out and plead his case.
It was a different era in baseball. Back then, you played in the cavernous Busch Stadium, and Whitey sure tailored that team to have fast outfielders, fast running, and there was a lot of stolen bases back then.
Yeah, he actually, I think he actually started that in Kansas City when you think about it.
Willie Wilson.
Yeah, with Willie Wilson and guys who could cover a lot of ground. You have to have that in a National League ballpark because they were so much more spacious. And so, finding a group of guys that have high baseball IQs is really the challenge. And he was able to put it together. And that's one of the reasons I think they call it Whitey ball is that you had so many guys on a ball club that, if they had to, could manage themselves. When you have a Keith Hernandez and a Tommy Herr and an Oberkfell and a Bob Forsch, that makes life a lot easier for a manager, and I think Whitey would be the first to tell you that.
After your career, your number one was retired by the St. Louis Cardinals. You went into the first Cardinals Hall of Fame. But you were a first ballot Major League Baseball Hall of Famer. I think 91.7% of the writers voted you in. That's pretty special for a first-time eligible player.
Well, first time for a notably defensive player. I was notably a defensive player, and to be able to say that you garnered 91% of the vote on your first time is very, very special to me. And believe me, my goal was never to be a Hall of Famer. It'd be nice if something like that happened. My goal was really to be the very best and most consistent baseball player that I could be. And for young people out there watching this, it's all about applying yourself every day and knowing that no success is going to come without some blood, some sweat, and some tears, and you're only going to get out of it what you put in. And so I worked extremely hard at being the very best that I could be. I asked myself every day when I left the ballpark, did I do the very best that I could do that day? That didn't mean we won, but I know that I didn't leave anything on the field. I didn't take anything for granted, and fortunate for me, it landed me in the Hall of Fame.
We mentioned your 15 All-Star games, 13 consecutive Gold Gloves, World Series championships, but you got up to almost 2,500 hits. I remember when you hit the 2,000 mark, I was at that game.
28 complete games and a 1.12 ERA. On the right field line, a long way to go. Benzinger can't get it, he runs by the ball. Ozzie Smith with hit number 2,000, and he stands at third with a triple. History right here for Ozzie Smith.
I was at that game, and people were like, Ozzie may have just punched his ticket into the Hall of Fame.
You know what, when that happened, because I wasn't a stat guy, I had a friend of mine that says to me, he said, are you aware that you're closing in on 2,000 hits? And I go, man, get out of here. He says, no, look at the back of your baseball card. And sure enough, at that time I was like 20, 25 hits away from 2,000. And I had no idea because I was working hard every day, trying to do my job every day. And I think that if you approach it that way, good things happen.
You had your last year in St. Louis, you retired, the new regime came in, you took a little bit of an absence after that, and now you're back. You've had many projects over the years.
Yeah.
I remember after you retired, you had a party at your restaurant at West Park Plaza one year right after the Rams came. And like Tony Banks and Eddie Kennison, all the gang was there. The St. Louis Blues were all there. And you had a fondness for wanting to get these groups together. What made you want to do that?
We did. I had a good group of people out there. And from a promotional standpoint, it was always, they were always coming up with ideas and stuff. And so it became the restaurant was there for 21 years, so it kind of became a landmark for a lot of people and stuff. So it was kind of just a natural for us to be able to put on promotions and things there. And we had a great time because you had, of course, the excitement of the Rams coming to town, and of course, the solid Blues fans. And that was just a fun place, man. We were lucky to have that place for like 21 years, and a lot of fun times remembered there.
That was fun. I would like to thank you for letting me interview that night about presenting an award to Jackie Poor. Basically, she won the Emmy Award, and you had presented her that. But you seem like a natural in broadcasting. You took over for Mel Allen, and This Week in Baseball.
Hello,
That must have been kind of fun.
Crazy, folks, go crazy! What a play, Ozzie Smith.
Watch and enjoy. Nothing to it.
Hi, I'm Ozzie Smith, the new host of This Week in Baseball.
Join Ozzie each week for an insider's look at our national pastime.
Sometimes when you go through, you spend 15, 20 years in a business, you hope that you create relationships that would allow you to do some other things when you get out of it. And that was certainly one of the things, being able to host This Week in Baseball. And This Week in Baseball for me was the way that I got my baseball on Saturdays when I was growing up, so it was a real honor to be following Mel Allen. And I did that for 3 or 4 years. I had a chance to do a little color with the Cardinals for a little bit, and now I have a chance to do the Insider. So it's a lot of fun, and it's really about the people that you surround yourself with. They make it very easy for me. It's a great group of people.
We'll talk about the Insider and much more coming up. As we head to break, here's Cardinal head trainer Adam Olson discussing the proper ways to keep your body conditioned when playing baseball.
Well, I think that's where, when you talk about competitive advantage with the different teams across the league, one of the things that our front office is really invested in is making sure that we're doing everything that we can as far as on the right way to do things. And that, like you said, it's with nutrition, supplements, rest, recovery, sleep. We monitor all of that on our players, and we try to give good advice to them wherever we can. And that's really, the name of the game in baseball is recovery. If you got to play every day, you got to be able to feel like you're fresh for that next game. And so a lot of that happens with, just the amount and quality of sleep that you get each night, and then obviously the fuel that you put inside your body. So yeah, we preach the right way to do things here, and obviously there's things out there that you can kind of can cheat your way through. But that's obviously not what we support here, and that's not what we would ever advise any of our players on. And I think, they found over the last couple of years that a lot of what we can do here through nutrition and rest and all that, they found that really does make a difference in their day.
We are the stars up in the sky. We let the darkness shoot and I. We are the flicker in the night. Never shine so bright. Now we have wings, we can fly. We can be kings tonight. Wipe away the tears from our eyes.
Together we can end world hunger. Donate at these participating restaurants today.
Hey, welcome back to the show. Our special guest today is Ozzie Smith. Before we get back to the Wizard, we're going to head out to Busch Stadium, where the St. Louis Cardinals recently teamed up with a Play campaign to teach young baseball players the right way to play the game.
But it's a pleasure to be here, and especially with the Play campaign, which is promoting a lifetime of activity to youth, an initiative of the Professional Baseball Athletic Trainer Society, or PBATS, and we just are so grateful for their participation. Amidst all the bluster of the games and things like that, there is a lot of substance that goes behind giving back to the community, if you will, with the athletic trainers. So it's just a privilege to really be a part of that.
Ozzie, one of the great things about the St. Louis Cardinals and a lot of the Major League Baseball teams is they have efforts and projects to try to revive baseball in inner cities for young African American kids, and they have programs that they try to tell about the bad effects of PEDs, but there's supplements that need to be used as well. Where's like the fine line between PEDs and supplements? Because you need supplements for recovery, but PEDs are bad.
Right. I mean, and it's one of the challenges that we have with young people today at getting them to hopefully find people or trainers that can keep them on the right track and help them do it. Sometimes, when guys get busted for PED, they may not even know it, because you can go to GNC and there can be something within that product that is on the banned list. So you have to be very, very careful. And sometimes especially for Latin players, they're unaware. They may not know the language as well. And so if they can go into a GNC store and tell people they're looking for something that's going to give them energy or whatever, but it may have a banned substance within that. And there's a few guys that has happened to. But, preaching to young people all the time about the fact that you want to do it the right way, you got to work hard to get to where you want to get to in your life, and you want to do it with as much respect and much honor as you possibly can if you're going to achieve any great things in life.
Obviously, in the 1970s and 80s, there seemed to be an increase of black players in Major League Baseball. It seemed to have tailored off a little bit in the last 15 or 20 years or so. Why do you think that is? And with all the camps and things you've done for the youth, what do you think they can do?
I think part of what has happened is the fact that when you go to the Dominican Republic or Puerto Rico, they eat it, they sleep it, they breathe it. Red tape for putting camps together, you don't have all the red tape over there that you have here. I think for kids now, we live in such a world of instantaneous results. You press a button and you can send things all over the world. And I think the fact that we sit around and we look at players like LeBron James or Kobe Bryant, most kids think that if they have talent that could happen to them. The percentages of that happening to anyone is very, very minute and very small. And I think that sometimes when we talk about that so much, kids think that could happen to them. And it's a hard road. It's a long road to the major leagues or to pros. And I think that view that they have of thinking that it could happen so quickly has thrown them off. So that's why you see a lot of kids that used to play baseball, they go to basketball, they go to football, looking for that quick fix, and it's not there. If you're going to be a big league player, you're going to have to. Most of us going to have to go through the minor league system. You're going to have to spend some time in the minor leagues learning your craft before you make it to the big leagues. And I think that kids just don't have the patience and the time to accept the fact that you've got to go through. There's got to be that blood, that sweat, and that tears.
When you compare, I know basketball, it's tough to break in. You've got to be a certain height, and there's only 10 or 12 guys on each team. In the NFL, the contracts aren't guaranteed, short careers. Guys like Brian Jordan, Deion Sanders, they found ways to make extra money. Baseball would seem to be the route to go if you want to have a long career and make some money.
Well, they probably, travel and stuff too. It's kind of hard because most kids in the inner cities come from broken families where you only have one, usually the mom or grandmom, someone who is the head of the family. So getting back and forth. You have to have someone, a coach or a friend or a family member that works together to get the kid to and from practice and stuff, so it becomes very, very complicated. Whereas in the Dominican Republic, as I said, they know that it's a way out. So from the time that they're 4 or 5 years old, they put a ball in their hand, they put a bat in their hand, they put a glove in their hand, because they know that if they stick to it, then the earlier you get them acclimated to it, probably the more successful, the better the chances of being successful are.
One guy that's gone through the minor leagues and come up now into the Major League Baseball is Paul DeYoung. A guy played your position, shortstop for the St. Louis Cardinals. What do you think about Paul? I know you told me earlier that you've met him. Looks like he's got a great upside. But 1 year ago, Aledmus Diaz was an all-star shortstop. Now he's in the minor leagues.
Yeah, it's a very humbling experience, and I think that when I first saw Paul down in spring training, I realized he had good hands, he had good feet, and it was just a question of whether or not what type of offensive player he's going to be. But we certainly see that he's a great offensive player, and I think that his consistency every day at making the routine play, which is what I would stress to any young player. make that routine play every day, and great plays will take care of themselves.
Let's go back to Busch Stadium right now and check in with Paul DeYoung.
15 games, this spot in the lineup. Ground ball left side, DeYoung, gloves, long throw to first. Wow, what a play! Paul DeYoung!
For a 7 o'clock game, I'll get here about 2 o'clock, and I go through my routine of, just stretching out. Sometimes I'll lift, hitting the cage, come out here, do my work on the field, and then, eat, take a hot tub, get ready for the game, and, roll out here about 6:45 for a 7 o'clock game, stretch and play the game. But, I'm very routine oriented. I pretty much do the same thing every day, just kind of mundane and tedious, but that's how it goes.
There's a whole lot involved other than just the ball game.
Yeah, and to play 162 games a year, you got to really be in good shape. So that's why you got to lift a lot still. Most of the guys still lift. Just try to stay in shape. But yeah, we're here 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock for a 7 o'clock game, and then 3-hour game, and we're here for a while.
Yeah, Ozzie, it's neat to see Paul DeYoung out there, a rookie, helping out these young kids from the Matthews Dickey Boys and Girls Club and other little, camps and organizations from around town. So big kudos to him.
The Cardinals have always been great at working with the community and being such a big part of the community. And they understand the importance of probably the most important thing in life is the ability to give back, and the Cardinals certainly do that.
Certainly, and you look at some of his statistics as a rookie, he's got some nice power numbers. As your career was, in full bloom, after you worked with Whitey Herzog, your batting average started going up. You started getting a lot of hits, started hitting the ball into the ground, and the next thing you know, you win the 1987 Silver Slugger Award for best hitter at your position.
Well, I was given the opportunity, and sometimes it's just about being given that opportunity. And my defensive prowess allowed me to remain at the big league level to learn the art of hitting, which wasn't easy when you're facing Nolan Ryan, Fergie Jenkins, Tom Seaver. The list just goes on and on of those guys that are all Hall of Famers. And so, I have to thank Whitey and the whole staff for allowing me to remain at the big league level to learn the art of hitting, from Chuck Hiller to Dave Ricketts to Hal Lanier and everybody that took part in throwing batting practice and spending time with me in the batting cage. All of those people had a hand in helping me become an offensive player and have a better understanding of the type of offensive player I was going to be.
You're a player under Whitey Herzog. He's the boss. It's funny now, here come 20, 30 years later, you're working at Fox Sports Midwest, and, now you're interviewing Whitey Herzog. I saw a recent episode.
I'd hitchhike to Sportsman Park to watch the Browns or the Cardinals play. I even brought baseball to school. I bet I did a book report on every chapter of the greatest baseball heroes. I learned to fish, have fun, work hard, never be late, enjoy a cold beer, and play ball. Man, did I ever want to be a ball player. I'd say things turned out pretty good.
Red, did you ever think that you'd be animated?
No, I tell you, I'm getting a kick out of them cartoons. They've done a great job, and every one of those cartoons would remind me of something. I may have not made the team if I had went to a big school like in St. Louis or somewhere, because when I signed my first contract, I was 5'9", 155 pounds. And later on, 2 years later, I kind of matured a little bit, and I weighed 185, and that's about like everybody was in those days, Ozzie. I grew up to be about 5'11 and a half, 6 foot, and 180 pounds. That's the same thing as Willie Mays, same thing as Stan Musial. We were all the same size, except Babe Ruth.
All right. You want to take a look at the second one?
Yeah.
What was it like to interview Whitey after playing under him?
You could probably imagine. He just put a mic out there and let him go. Whitey is one of those very colorful people in the game, and much like a lot of the managers, like Tommy Lasorda, those guys have stories, and the amazing thing about all of them is their memory. Their memory of certain instances, certain days, certain dates that they remember, and I think that's one of the most intriguing parts of sitting down and listening to those guys talk about the game that we all love. And so talking to Whitey or talking to Willie and all those guys, because of the experiences we had together, it's very easy.
You've got your jacket, You're in the Hall of Fame. You get to hang out with Whitey and different members of the Hall of Fame each year. Is it getting more special each year, Ozzie, or tell us about going to Cooperstown?
I mean, it's always special when you have a chance to rub shoulders with the game's greatest. And I never took it for granted because I never considered myself one of those guys. And to be a part of that now and to just sit there and be amazed at, I can remember the first time, my first time going there, I look back and there's Willie Mays. There's Sandy Koufax. All of these people that I grew up watching as a kid growing up in Southern California. And now, I'm considered one of them. There's still levels, there's still levels of Hall of Fame too. And, there's royalty, like Hank Aaron. Gee, that's the Hammer sitting there.
And they're looking over saying, there's the first ballot Hall of Famer, Ozzie.
Well, I don't know what they're saying, but I know I'm sitting there saying to myself, wow, this is very surreal. And each and every time that I go back there now, I feel proud of what I was able to accomplish over a 19-year career, and the fact that I can wear a little pin that says Hall of Fame. So it's pretty neat.
That's got to be pretty special, Ozzie.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff to talk about. You do a lot of great things in the community. You've done it for many years, and recently you started a new project. Can you fill us in?
Oh, the iMac Regeneration Center. About 3 years ago, I met some guys from Paducah, Kentucky, who claimed that they could make me feel better. My shoulder, I'd had surgery on my shoulder, and they said, hey, we can fix it, we can make it feel better, and you can play more golf. So I took a trip down to Paducah and had some PRP done on my shoulder. It worked so well that they asked me if they opened a facility here in St. Louis, would I be willing to partner with them? And now, a year and a half into this project, we opened the Ozzie Smith iMac Regeneration Center, which is on 141 and Olive. And yesterday, we opened the Satellite Center so that the patients wouldn't have so far to travel that come from St. Charles.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, any other thoughts? I did want to ask you about the flip. Because you had a gymnastics background, you started doing it, and I remember an opening day and in the playoffs, everybody looked forward to the flip.
Ready for the flip, and we're ready to start the season. Here we go. The 40-year-old shortstop.
Let me say this here right off. No, I don't do it anymore if you're going to ask me. Not intentionally anyway, but real quickly, I tell people that when I grew up in Southern California, I lived across the street from a wood factory. So I used to go over and tumble in the sawdust. We used to take a plank and put between the stacks of wood where they built pallets and use that as our diving board. And then on Thursdays, we used to go to what they call the family fun centers where they had trampolines in the ground. And I used to tumble over the concrete, flip over the concrete onto the other trampoline, crazy things as a kid. And when I got to the big leagues in 1978, we had to run 2 miles after we finished working out. And I wasn't very fond of running, especially long distances. So I was at the back of the pack, and I had Gene Tennis, I had Raleigh Fingers, I had Gaylord Perry and Dave Winfield, who all gave me a hard time about being the rookie and being at the back of the pack. So to show them I wasn't tired, I did a round-off backflip. Gene Tennis had girls that were involved in gymnastics at the time, and he wanted me to show them that I could do that at some point in time during the season, which I wasn't able to do. So the final day of the season, which was Fan Appreciation Day, he and the PR guy thought it would be a great idea for me to go to do it on my way out to my position. Now, in San Diego, the entertainment was the chicken. And I certainly didn't want to try and show up the chicken. But anyway, long story short, I reluctantly did it, and people liked it so much they asked me to do it opening day the following year, and lo and behold, a trademark was
So that was actually before the Cardinals.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you brought that along with you.
Brought that with me, yes.
Well, Ozzie, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule.
Well, thank you.
And continued success.
Thank you, Todd. Thanks for having me.
That's the Wizard. We'd like to thank the St. Louis Cardinals, members of the Play Committee, and Ozzie Smith for making this show possible. For our Inside Sports crew, I'm Todd Blackstock. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.